Here's something most corporate leaders don't realize. Creativity and strategy are built on the same muscle. Good day, everyone, and welcome to this week's creative episode. Thank you all for joining me. Absolute pleasure to be here with you today. In today's episode, I am focusing the discussion on creative emotional intelligence and leadership. Now, these are two topics that are very close to my heart and something that I absolutely love to talk about in a variety of circumstances. So I wanted to now share this process with you. Creative intelligence is a tool that does marry very well with leadership in organizations. And I think a lot of teams and larger organizations are underutilizing the importance of creative intelligence. And majority are probably ignoring it and mostly focusing on logic. So in this episode, I wanted to touch on the benefits of leadership and emotional creativity. Self-accountability is a powerful source of energy that we all need to activate within ourselves. Because when we operate from that new level, we start to make different decisions and see the world in a different and new perspective. And once we have and make those different decisions from a new level, we affect not only our own immediate life, but also that ripples in the life beyond our immediate experiences. And that's how we really begin to affect true change. And the thing that I think is quite underutilized when it comes to art and creativity is people understanding the power of art and how that builds emotional resilience, self-trust, courage, the ability to make decisions under a crisis and uncertainty. Because when you are in a studio, it really is you against you and nobody else. No matter how much I would like to blame somebody outside of me, it really falls back to me. All responsibility falls back to me. And that's where and how you start to have accountability. Because then when you understand that process, you know that you have the power to make a choice, to make a decision, and the power in how you respond, not simply react. Because a reactive process comes from a foundation that is not rooted in centeredness and calmness. It comes from being rooted in emotional instability. Let me say something bold. The way someone paints tells me everything about how they lead, how they make decisions, how they respond to uncertainty, and how they collaborate or isolate, how much permission they give themselves to see, to feel, and to trust. There's no title in front of your name when you are holding a brush. No job description, no KPIs, just your instinct, your tolerance for uncertainty, and your willingness to try. Now, creativity isn't just for artists. It's a mirror, a compass, a pressure gauge. And for leaders, now it's one of the most underutilized tools for insight, clarity, and cohesion. Let me show you how to spot what's misaligned and rebuild from truth, not survival. And that work often starts here, with a brush, with color, with silence. Because when you remove the rules, people show you their passions. Because how you show up on canvas reveals how you show up in life and in leadership. Now, art strips away performance. You can't bluff your way through a painting. You can feel your way, you can focus, you can fail, you adjust, and you learn. That's what real leadership looks like. Now, in these portraits, I'm not just capturing a face, I'm capturing what's true. And in many ways, this is the leadership at work that doesn't get measured, but it matters. Because if you can't face a blank canvas, how do you face a difficult conversation? Art reveals the leader. There's no spreadsheet for courage, no slogan for self-truth, no metric for emotional clarity, but this is where it lives. In the mess, in the marks you make and the ones you avoid, in what you let yourself feel. Art strips away performance. There's no title in front of your name when you are holding a brush. There's just your instinct, your tolerance for uncertainty, and your willingness to try, to be bold where you can take chances. In a painting session, I've seen a perfectionist leader stall on the first mark, afraid to get it wrong. A dominant personality take over the canvas, unable to let others contribute. A withdrawn team member quietly creates something extraordinary, unnoticed until the end. These are not art problems. They are organizational dynamics showing up in paint. When we allow space for creativity, we don't just make images, we reveal emotional posture. Who's rigid, who's fluid, who's afraid to be seen. And that level of honest visibility, that's gold for any organization serious about culture, growth, or legacy. Why? Because art builds cohesion without corporate speak. Let's be real. Most team building exercises feel forced. People show up, do the thing, and go back to business as usual. I used to be one of those participants, lifting buckets, walking on skinny pieces of wood. I know how it felt. But creativity, it bypasses the surface. It creates non-verbal trust. When a team co-creates something visual without a roadmap, they must listen and feel differently, communicate in new ways, relinquish control, and collaborate without hierarchy. That experience rewires how a team thinks about each other, because suddenly the quiet one is a color genius. The manager who's always result oriented now lets loose. The conflict prone duo paint in flow side by side. They are no longer roles on an org chart. They are humans seen through creativity. And once that shift happens, workplace connection becomes real, not scripted. Here's something most corporate leaders don't realize. Creativity and strategy are built on the same muscle: vision, adaptability, pattern recognition, risk tolerance, and above all, the ability to stay present in uncertainty. In the studio, leaders rehearse these traits in real time: how they start, what they avoid, how they handle things that are going off plan. You want to know how someone leads in a crisis? Watch them paint on a blank canvas. Here's what creativity reawakens in individuals. Even beyond teams and org charts, creativity invites the individual back into the room. That's the part of you that sees clearly, feels deeply, makes intuitive decisions without needing a manual. Most professionals have been trained to suppress that part, to rely only on logic, to numb their gut, but in the process, they've also numbed their vision. Leadership entails exciting people's imagination and inspiring them to move in a desired direction. Inspiring people's imagination. Now, isn't that what art is all about? Inspiring people's imagination, whether it's through portraiture, beauty, color, flowers, landscape, inspiring people's imagination. And if someone in your team is not motivated awe-inspiring. It really comes to that bottom level of seeing what their self-accountability and self-responsibility is for themselves. Because, first and foremost, if you cannot lead yourself, if you have no self-accountability, no self-responsibility, it will be very difficult to lead a team. Personally, I have never asked my team to do a single thing that I was not prepared to do myself. This is important because I've never wanted my team to look at me as someone that has stood on the sidelines and asking them to achieve the impossible without me being at the front. And I heard this incredible statement, which I believe was from General Patton. It might not have been, so don't hold me accountable to that. But I love this statement. A leader must be one that is able to be at the front and pull a cooked noodle. So if you've got a leader and you've got a spaghetti, which is a cooked noodle, and they're at the back, you can't push that cooked noodle. It just won't go anywhere. But if a leader's at the front and pulling that noodle, and ergo being the whole team, that's somebody that you want to be with. That's in someone's team that you want to be with. That level of motivation starts with self-accountability, self-leadership, and emotional intelligence. The moment you can control your own emotion and understand those emotions and understand where to go from them, pending where you're at, i.e., crisis, no crisis, but you can still make a decision, that is effective leadership. And for me personally, that starts with this, because you can't scream at a single person when you make a mistake. It's all you. Now, when you're painting, and particularly when I'm in creating portraits, I go to this particular inner self, an instinct, a gut feel. It's probably the best way that I can describe that. But I do go inside and listen to a part of me that connects on a deeper level. And that's important because it is from that point that I'm able to find truth, that I'm able to now direct which way the palette knife will move. And it then becomes more of an instinctual type creating process. So it doesn't just lead me from logic, because logic tells me whether or not I've stuck to the parameters of maintaining the features. That's the foundation. But the instinct, the inner part now guides me in terms of getting that emotional part. And as I said, a good leader is someone that's got a good hand on their emotions. Emotions are also, which is now coming back to crossing the bridge to leadership, emotions are also a hyper efficient mode of communication. Why is that? Good feelings spread far more powerfully than bad ones. And if you have a leader that walks around continually having some sort of negative peppering, that's a good word, a negative peppering within the business, it will very quickly begin to take a rotten feel that will spread from employee to employee. So again, creativity and leadership are an incredible good marriage that go hand in hand, because emotions are one of the most important things when you lead people and when you lead yourself. So generally, leaders and individuals who lack emotional intelligence tend to really operate from a different set of values and a different set of rules. And predominantly, whilst it's not visible straight away, they tend to operate from a platform of fear, lack, and survival, and generally have an anxiety and deep, deep discomfort. Now, adaptability in any business, as an artist, in a business, in a team, an organization, it requires flexibility. And let me tell you, when you paint any portrait, any artwork in general, you need to be flexible. Without that flexibility, you are heading down the path of ruining that artwork very, very quickly. Now, what does flexibility depend on? Flexibility depends on your emotional strength. And again, I'm talking about this that I've spoken about at length. Ability to stay comfortable with ambiguity, remain calm in the face of uncertainty, and self confidence, particularly able to adjust to a crisis or a mistake that you would have made on your canvas. Innovators and artists take pleasure in originality. Okay, that's a really important statement. The problem that a large or a small organization have with innovators is that they don't tend to operate from a linear platform, meaning you go from A to B to C to D. The trouble with having an innovator for an organization is firstly that. Second, they tend to do things out of the box. But the positive thing about having someone with high emotional intelligence that's an innovator, a creator, is that they're able to see a solution to a problem very, very differently and are able to solve that problem very quickly. The challenge that an organization has and that a leader has is that it is uncertain because it doesn't follow corporate rules. And that, for many team leaders and organizations, is very risky. But the paradox in all of that is this: you need someone on your team that is an innovator because they thrive in originality and they're able to find a solution to a problem in a different way to what you would have done or thought about, and in a much quicker way. Now, leadership demands healthy and vigorous and enthusiastic action. A nation, a team, an organization will firstly deteriorate in how they think and feel before you can see that deterioration outwardly. So I would encourage you all, whether you're a team, organization, an individual ready to get a new perspective on life, ready to invigorate and bring forward a new voice, become self-accountable. Look at the decisions you're making, the choices that you're making, and how how you're interacting with the world environment around you. And the best place to start is to understand what your impediments are. And those impediments become visible the moment you pick up a paintbrush, because from that point forward, you will understand what within you is the resistance to allowing you to move, feel, and act confident going forward. A man may fall many times, but he won't become a failure until he says, "Someone pushed me." And that's a great quote by Elmer Letterman. Love that quote. So you can have an incredible process of failing when you begin to pick up a brush. But the moment you blame that someone else made you fail, that's when failure will take root within you. So know that failure isn't the amount of mistakes that you've made, rather the amount of times that you've been able to correct, redirect, and re-emerge as a new person with a new perspective. I don't know many other vocations that give you the same opportunity as what a blank canvas does. Meaning, the moment you step in front of that blank canvas, you have the opportunity to either show up as someone insecure or someone with confidence that you'd be able to figure it out, understand it, make decisions, redirect, rebuild yourself. That all sits with you. And those different and new thoughts and emotions come from being comfortable with failure and without blaming anybody else. This is where self-accountability will become your new superpower. And the moment you start to actually own that and move through life with that, you will not look at an event, people, places, and things as something that is there to inhibit you, rather as something that you are needing to learn and move through whichever direction you choose to go in. If you're leading only from intellect, you are running half-powered. Creative process reclaims the rest, and this doesn't require quitting your job or becoming a full-time artist. It is as simple as this. Pick up a brush. Give yourself permission to be messy. Notice what rises. If you're an organization, a founder, a leader, and something in this resonates, don't ignore it, because your culture is already creating. The question is it conscious? Is it aligned? And is it emotionally intelligent? Unless you know how to direct your own emotions, you will not be able to feel connected or understand your employees. Creativity isn't a luxury. It really is a leadership tool. The real questions are, how do we harness emotions to create a culture that thrives? How do we inspire teams to feel invested, motivated, and driven? And how do we turn emotion into a competitive edge? So whether you are an individual, a team, or a large organization, this is your invitation. Put the brush in your hand. Let the silence speak and ask yourself, am I building from truth or just surviving with polish? Subscribe if this speaks to you, or better yet, pick up a brush. I promise it will show you something real.